technologically, we're on pace to evolve faster in the next 5 to 6 years than the previous 100. So if you think 100 years back, only about 25% of houses had running water and electricity inside the home. Okay? The most advanced technology we had was the Ford production line making Model T. You look now, our phone devices are more powerful than the computer that put the man on the moon. So if you look at the pace of technology and you imagine it like a hockey stick, I think we're at the bottom of this hockey stick. It's going to go woomph in the next 5, 6, 7 years, whereby you better get on board with this. Otherwise, you're going to be hurting a lot.
Welcome to The Future Was Yesterday. And welcome, Duncan. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for inviting me, Cesar. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I like to start by asking if you can tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you located currently and about the work that you are doing at the moment?
Absolutely. So I'm located in Seattle, Washington, west coast of the USA, as I'm sure you already know. I'm a leadership, talent, organizational development practitioner. I've been doing this work probably close to 30 years now. And I've worked for companies like Cisco, Hewlett-Packard, the Federal Reserve Bank here in the West Coast. I've worked at Safeway Corporate, which is a retail grocer. So just a lot of different kind of industries, different companies, different sizes, but all with one very common issue that I've seen through the years, which prompted me to write a book called Mind the Gap, which is about how organizations really need to turn to look at their people as people first rather than employees first. And by that, I mean, treat them as human beings with some respect, compassion, empathy. And so my work now really focuses on the book and kind of going about that kind of mantra of treating people as humans.
It's very interesting and maybe a little bit, how's the word, serendipitous, the conversation today, because I myself had the chance to work a little bit on Seattle a few years ago. I'm a retired Navy officer, so I was doing a work for a shipyard outside Seattle, and the work culture was reverse culture shock for me at that time, because it was great. It just this simple thing, as you were saying, that treat your people as humans. And we had several instances that the shipyard owner talked with the employees, with the workers, sit with them at the lunch table, had a barbecue together on Friday. I think the biggest culture shock for us was the honor shop, that you could have your chips and sodas and take it. Nobody's supervising, just paid what is correct. And everyone was super happy working there. Everyone was super productive. And I remember when we went back to Mexico, we, of course, came with things that we liked and that we tried to implement in our work, in our day-to-day. Some things works great. Some things, maybe there are cultural differences that don't make it so easy. But I must tell that I was very surprised, presently surprised. I don't know if it's a mindset from the region, because I work in other places in the US and it wasn't exactly my experience. So I think it's amazing. Even some of the people, and please don't take this the bad way, but some of the guys, they were saying that maybe people in Seattle is almost too Canadian for the.
Maybe. No, but I think there's good and bad everywhere you go, Cesar. My experience, and I've worked across Europe. I'm from England originally. I've worked in Germany and Central Europe. and here in the States and all across the States, East Coast, West Coast, in the middle. My experience is that you get glimpses of good and bad wherever you go. And it comes down to individual leadership and management, and sometimes the philosophy of the organization that is really truly lived rather than just being a placard on the wall that says, we look at people as our most important asset. And so they point to the placard and say, look, it's in writing, it must be true. And as we both know, that it isn't true. And I think it's a mindset and a kind of philosophy that is pushed down from senior leadership, but also pushed up from the trenches so that you kind of meet in the middle somewhere. Because if you think about it, if leadership sets the tone, people in the trenches start to see these things, then they'll start giving discretionary effort. They'll start to be more respectful. They use the honor system, to your point. And what happens is that gap starts to close because they're being treated like people, like human beings, instead of like a commodity, an asset.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And in that regard, I wanted to ask you, based on your experience, because I totally understand. Notice the leadership set the I wouldn't say, I wouldn't like to say the mindset, but set the mood for the work and environment. But how can the leader resist or fight the urges of the market or the conventional wisdom, let's say, from, like, I don't know, from very corporate oriented, KPI driven kind of mentality to something more human centric?
Yeah, and I don't think you can. Obviously, you can't change market forces, the environment. Sometimes, you are part of the corporate culture, so you don't get to set the direction. But what you can do, I think, is start to treat people like human beings. Have aspirational conversations with your employees, such as, where do you see yourself in a couple of years? Where are we today versus where you want to be? Help me craft the roadmap with you to get there, and keep having those conversations. And to me, coaching is such an undervalued tool, because if you think about it, you can coach every day. You can coach every minute of every day if you want to. And not that you should, but you could, right? But you can only send someone to a workshop where that workshop has a finite beginning and end. So the learning or whatever happens in the workshop, it may stick or it may not. You don't know. But if you're coaching someone and they get to the sense that you care about them, and you are treating them with humanity, with respect, then they're going to feel better about themselves. They're going to perform better because they don't feel the pressure of being treated like an asset. And am I still going to have a job tomorrow when things get tough? And, the underbelly of the organization is such that it reveals itself in times of tremendous change. So, for example, if you look at AI, and we know AI is going to influence the workforce pretty dramatically. So my point is that AI is going to reveal to everyone what their corporate culture really is. Because if you think about it, the human-centric organization is going to look at AI and say, I wonder how we might better empower our people to be more effective using AI, right? The company that is a bit more cutthroat, that looks at their employees as just assets to the organization and disposable assets, will look at AI and say, who can we replace with AI? Massive difference. And also, like I say, it reveals what the corporate culture really is. When you peel everything back, are you human-centric? Do you value people and the employees? Do you treat them with respect? Because if you think about it, AI doesn't have a beating heart. It doesn't have empathy. It doesn't have compassion. all the ways we connect as humans. So as a people manager, this is the time when you should be connecting with your people even more. And I think the fallacy is that, well, AI can do everything. You can have a coaching conversation with AI. Yeah, you can. But can AI really understand and connect with you like a human can? I don't think it can. And maybe that's coming in 50 years. Who knows? But I think to your question is we can reach back to connect on a human level, no matter what's going on in the world or in the organization. It doesn't stop us being kind to our employees, to take an interest, to care about them, to help them in their career.
Hi, this episode is brought to you by Sala. Building for the future shouldn't feel overwhelming. Sala is an all-in-one solution designed to support you at every stage. From shaping an idea to AI-powered customer service. But Sala don't just focus on technology. They help you make sense of it and actually use it in a way that works for you. If you're looking to grow, adapt, or future-proof your business, check out Sala.
In one of the previous guests of the show once told me that he's studying organization structures that facilitate the adoption of AI, and he was telling here in the show that probably the most effective organizational structure to AI adoption is the horizontal, or at least if it's more horizontal than vertical, because according to him, in a horizontal organization, you are eliminating, if I remember correctly, fear barriers to talk with the other people in the organization because they are in the same level as you know. And
Yeah.
if we'll be in a vertical organization that it's maybe relying too much on what the oracle of AI is saying, maybe at some point you will have a manager or a director or something that it's making decisions based on the results of the tool and going downward with the decision with no one to challenge. And at some and so this in practice means the AI is the one making the decisions for the structure for the company. And this at least to me resonate a lot because again in the military, I think a lot of people is having this idea that military is a very hierarchical and it is hierarchical structure. But if you want to have effective teams or effective crews, you have to teach them to work by themselves, to challenge the leadership, to interpret the orders, and to think out of the box. And a lot of, I think, or I think that a lot of these concepts are being now accepted or discovered in the work environment as a very human-centric approach. Maybe not the correct analogy, but it's the way how things work for the most specialized team, the most human skills you have to have. And we are seeing maybe the same for the AI adoption. Or what do you think?
Well, I would say it depends. And the reason I say that is at some point, someone has to make a decision, regardless of what AI says or otherwise, right? But here's the way I think about it is that AI gives you the data, it informs part of the decision-making process, I think. It shouldn't be the decision maker in of itself without questions, right? So I'll give you an example. Where I worked in IT for quite a while during the dot-com boom bust, and it was all about the quick decision, getting to the next level as quickly as possible, first to market, blah, blah, blah. And then I worked at the Federal Reserve Bank, and it was about the right decision, not the quick decision. So what I mean by that is we had committees to decide on certain things. And sometimes they would discuss a single word or sentence for a couple of days because they wanted to be exactly right. So to me, when you have a horizontal kind of organization, you might be tempted to hit impasse because no one's challenging that level, right? Which may work in some examples. I don't think this is a one-size-fits-all situation. I think organizations need to do a really deep dive organizational analysis of how AI is going to impact the work they do and where they want to go with it. And then make that decision as to what the organization may look like. And you may end up with smaller kind of work groups that are more, rounded where they're peers, but there is a decision maker in there who helps guide the decision making. And then they work in a pod, if you will. So rather than being completely level all the way around, it's more of this circular view where we examine data and we kind of look at that, we discuss it, but then we make a decision, which is the leader of that group. And therefore, the leader of the group is the person that needs to make that human contact, knowing that AI is going to help in that decision-making process. But it's not going to be the decision maker. It's going to provide the data that informs the decision. So to me, it's a lock, stock answer, right? It just depends on where the business is, where they want to go, what assets they have already in place. Is using AI going to require them to have a huge data center somewhere? Are they going to use their cloud space to its max? What does that look like? So there's a technical implication from leveraging AI as well as a people one. And I think the organizations that are going to come out on top of this are the ones that look at both of them in tandem. Because the company that just looks at AI as a way to replace people, they will plateau because you still need people to make decisions. You still need people to tell AI what you want it to do and to do something with whatever it gives you at the back end of it, right? So if you're not training these people at the same time, you will plateau. If you're an organization that looks at it holistically, takes care of their people, you will surpass the company that just focused on AI eventually. So you may be behind at the front end of this, but eventually you will surpass them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just historically, you just look at any organization in the past when you've had massive technological leaps, during the dot-com boom and bust, the Internet of Things, and so it goes on. AI is another example.
I wanted to ask, because in the company that I have, we are doing now, helping other companies to go through the AI adoption of their processes. And we are seeing that, and this sometimes come totally without intention, the processes or the positions that maybe are duplicate or that they share functions and maybe they are in different levels, but you end with something more streamlined at the end. Do you think that this process is going to change the traditional work structure, that there is a boss and the people under the departments under them? Or do you think that it's going to be something different at the end of the road?
Yeah, I think managers need to start becoming more intelligent talent leaders, because what happens is the best talent will go where the best opportunities are. And that's going to be a people-centric organization. And if there's not many companies focused on that, they're going to get the best of the best. And there's an old expression that says, the best always leave first. So what you're left with is not the best. So the companies that focus on people as much as they do on the technology are going to be the ones that win out. because I think what's going to happen is the nature of work is going to change massively over the next 5 years. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I don't think it's going to change in the way a lot of people think it's going to. In other words, you're not going to see wholesale people lose their jobs to AI. You're going to see them evolve because things, mundane tasks can get quicker, faster. You can design stuff so much faster now. You can create documents and PowerPoint slides and you name it in a fraction of the time it used to take us. So what it does is it speeds up some of that more mundane work. It doesn't, however, take the human element out of the equation. It never will, at least not in our lifetime, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
So what it means is, if you think about it, here in the States and Western Europe, probably, we're a consumer-based society. We want products. We want them faster. We want them to be more sophisticated. The appetite for products isn't going away anytime soon. So then the question becomes, well, how do we fulfill that need? And it's not just that. It's, government infrastructure. It's military. It's a bunch of other things, healthcare organizations, where AI can speed up the way we do things. But I don't think it's going to eliminate human intervention. I think the worker in 5 years needs to be more sophisticated than they are today, perhaps. And I think workers need to embrace AI instead of being fearful of it. Because when you do that, you'll start to see the value you can bring to your job. And if you can't, then you need to be looking for another one where you can, right? But either way, it's going to force a decision. The ones that are going to get caught in this are the ones that do nothing, I think. So if you sit there thinking, well, they're never going to replace me, yeah, that's wrong thinking. Or I'll be okay. My job is always, it's always been this way. Every job is going to change by nature, in my opinion, because you look at the pace of AI today. I was reading, Cesar, I was reading an article a few days back, and it was making the point that technologically, we're on pace to evolve faster in the next 5 to 6 years than the previous 100. So if you think 100 years back, only about 25% of houses had running water and electricity inside the home. Okay? The most advanced technology we had was the Ford production line making Model T Fords. So you look now, our phone devices are more powerful than the computer that put the man on the moon. So if you look at the pace of technology and you imagine it like a hockey stick, I think we're at the bottom of this hockey stick. It's going to go woomph in the next 5, 6, 7 years, whereby you better get on board with this. Otherwise, you're going to be hurting a lot.
Yeah,
That's mine.
Absolutely. And for good or worse, I think this goes directly to the unfortunately or fortunately, depending or where you are on the which end of the stick, to the education system. And I think, and this is a theory of myself, the entrepreneurship or the entrepreneurial mindset that you have, for educate yourself, be further than what you get from the school, take advantages, as you were saying, about mentorship and coaching from your bosses, your employers, and take awareness, being aware of what is happening and start building with all those elements. And because, for example, here now there is a very real situation here in Northern Europe with the situation of Russia and the war of Ukraine, that a lot of the society and now the workforce and following suit is starting to think always, maybe not always, but they're starting to think in how to work, how to exist in normal situation and in case of emergency situation. So now it's It's starting to search or seeing more the use of dual use of resources for the companies or the I don't know the everything that we have here. It's is going to be useful just for this situation, or is going how we are going to continue working or surviving or whatever we are doing in case of something happen. And
Yeah.
besides of that, we have the one ongoing thing that was the trying to adopt a more circular model. What you were saying, we are a consumer society, and at least here in Northern Europe, governments are trying actively to start to make us more conscient about how we consume, because they are still, maybe they are start to noticing how the supply chains are globalization start to fracture, and it's not going to be the same consumption
Yeah.
opportunities that were before. So start to how to reuse the things that we already have. And now on top of that, we have AI. So it's a lot of things in a very short period of time, in my opinion, that oblige push you to being updated and educate yourself and being aware, if maybe you are not doing it, but at least being aware that this situation exists, and if the opportunity arise, be better prepared to take action. No.
Yeah, and the thing that you bring up here, Cesar, is we're in a very unique space in time. And I'm talking about Western Europe, United States, Canada, in that you've got the advent of technology, specifically AI. You got 5 generations working in the workplace side by side. You got people staying in the workforce longer because they can, and they, for some people, they like their work and, they don't want to retire earlier. For other people, that it's through necessity because of the financial crisis back in 2008 to 10 to 11. But regardless, there's also a healthcare crisis because people are living longer. So, you got all these dynamics going on, which changes everything, right? And I think that the smart kind of mindset, the smart organization and manager recognizes that today's manager needs to be a lot more skilled than perhaps they were in days gone by because of those dynamics. And, the best, most effective managers are the ones that really want to connect with people, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Because, let's face it, a lot of people managers are promoted because of their technical skills, not because of their people skills. And that creates a problem right from the get-go because people tend to kind of lean into what's made them successful. So if you've been a successful successful technical person, you're going to use the same approach with people. And it doesn't work that way because everything that people do in the workplace is kind of in the gray area. Technical skills are very black and white. In other words, you do this, you get that. Or if you don't do this, you don't get that. And so it's very binary, right? And I think that to find the person who's done extremely well in the technical area and does extremely well as a people manager, that's a rare person. And one thing that astounds me more than anything else in all the time I've been in the workplace is I don't think I've run across an organization yet that do this. And I'm astounded why they don't. Is they'll look at you, Cesar, and say, hey, Cesar, you're a fantastic computer programmer. And we're thinking about making you a manager. So firstly, how do you feel about that? So having a conversation first to see if you even want to be a manager,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then saying, look, here's what we'd like to do. We'd like to give you a trial run. We want you to run a project and we're going to give you some training, coaching. You'll have a mentor alongside you just to see if you even like it. And then at the end of it, we'll have another conversation, see where you're at. And either it's going to be something you really want to do, and in which case we'll create a path for you, or it's not, right? But they don't do that. They say, Cesar, you're a great computer programmer. We're going to make you a manager. And they say, good luck with that. We might give you some training. And guess what? We cut our training budget. So there's no training. Sorry about that. And you have to go figure it out. And I've seen that so many times, so many organizations. And then they wonder why the guy fails or leaves and goes somewhere else. So, it's this flawed thinking that emanates from the very top, if we want the honest answer. And so culture is one of the hardest things to work out as a consultant, or, if you're internal to an organization, because you can't really see it, feel it, touch it. And that's why organizations put it on a wall so they can see it and go, look, see, this is what we do, And it's like, yeah, but you say that, but you don't actually do it, right? So, yeah, it's interesting. We're in interesting times, by the way, I think.
I want to ask you a sci-fi question, if I may.
Yeah, go for it.
Once a founder told me this, and now I would like to hear your opinion. He told me that if robots, the humanoid robot, eventually will cost $20,000 to buy a humanoid robot with capacities of a person. In that moment, you are just having robots in your workforce. Do you agree that if that is the case, a robot, humanoid robot, capacities as a person cost like a car, people will choose to have that instead of hiring a person?
Well, they already do. It's already happening. It depends what the job is. I mean, I'll give you an example. I worked at for a retail grocer, and they had a logistics center where all of their product for distribution was centered. And then there was about 500 employees there. And what they did is they loaded the containers up that were delivered then to the stores. So, a container might deliver to 4 or 5 stores, say, for example. Well, I was in a project, and this was back in 2008, I want to say it was, around that time frame, 27, 28. And what the project was is they wanted to, firstly, they worked all the cubic capacity of the container out before they loaded it all manually by hand. And then they said, all right, this store is being delivered last, so it gets loaded first. Makes sense, right? The store that you're going to deliver to first needs to be at the, front of the container. So when you open the door, you're delivering what they order. So anyway, this robotics program, what it did is it worked out the cubic capacity of the container. You fed in the information, what you wanted delivered to which store. And then the robot went and picked everything and loaded it into the container using every cubic inch that it could. And so that location had 550 employees, give or take. By the time this project was finished, they operated on about 45 people. Because you still needed humans to run the programs and do, a lot of the stuff, right? But it's just one example that, a lot of production. Yeah. I mean, they're doing surgery using robots now, right? They do microscopic surgery, which is probably more effective with a robot than it is, using a human.
And a distance.
So a distance as well, yeah. So we get in there. We're already there, actually. Is it going to be wholesale? Probably, but not tomorrow or 5 years. I think, maybe 15, 20, maybe. You'll see a lot more of that. But at the end of the day, if you think about it, everyone thought, the internet was going to end everything. But it didn't, did it? And we thought that these phones were going to make life easier for us. Well, they haven't, have they, really? Because now you're always on call. You get, 24/7 notices, and so it goes on. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of humans as we know it. What it means is work's going to get more sophisticated, which means then the worker has to be more sophisticated. So I'll give you another example, Caesar. I was back in the late 90s. I was teaching Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all the Microsoft suite, because people started to realize if I don't have those programs down, it's going to be hard for me to get a job anywhere. So there's this big surge in people taking Microsoft Office. Well, guess what? There's a big surge now, people learning Chat GTP or Claude or, any of the other AI languages, because the smart people have realized, hey, I need to upskill and be more sophisticated if I want to compete. And the reality is that is what the mindset that is going to make people more competitive and more better aligned for roles as they come up. Because you even see it now in job descriptions, AI experience or certification, preferred or whatever it is, right? So it's creeping into our everyday lives. And, everything you do, self checkout at the grocery store, things of that nature, we're getting more and more automated. And look at it, we got driverless cars now, right? Waymos.
Yeah, absolutely. This, and just to move to the next question, this question about the robot, my friend was saying with the idea of get rid of the drama.
Yeah.
That the worst part of having a company, an organization, or a startup was the drama between the people, and that if will be something that it's doing the same work without the drama, people will choose to that. But I don't know. It's also maybe the drama is part of what makes things interesting, no?
Well, what makes us human, right? You're not going to get a drama between a robot and a robot, I would imagine, right? But, that interaction, that's how we get creative. When we disagree, do it, some people are more emotional than others, but when we disagree, sometimes that takes us to a better space because we start to think in different ways. And I don't think AI has cracked that particular nut quite yet. Will it? Maybe, probably. But human interaction is always going to be needed in the foreseeable future, I would argue. But what AI can do for us is better inform our decision making, provide us information faster, more expansive, more in depth, and so it goes on. So, it's funny, I was reading a few days ago as well that attorneys, right? So an attorney, they earn really good money, right? And they did this test and they gave a brief, and it's like 300 pages. So I think it was like 9 or 10 attorneys. I said, read this brief, come back with the most salient points in your position and blah, blah, blah. And it took them about 3 weeks to do it. And it came back with about 76%, give or take, as an average. So they gave it to AI to do. And it did it in like 35 minutes with about 96% accuracy. So we know where that's headed, right? And maybe rightly so, that you can do deep analysis in nanoseconds compared to what we humans can do. So my argument is take advantage of that, use that, but don't look at that as the end result. What are you going to do with that information once you've got it is the question.
Absolutely.
So that's where the new skills reside, right? It's a bit like, data mining was a huge thing for a while, right? And the new skill became, what do you do with the data now you've mined it? And so now we know what to do with it. We give it to AI and it'll tell us what we can be doing with it, right?
Yeah, it's interesting how things are going as you say, and I totally agree. This decade or maybe just the last 5 years are going to be very transformative, and we are going to be in a different place at the end of it. And the same as we are almost at the end of the conversation today, and it has been very, 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 very nice and rewarding have this conversation with you. And to close, I would like to ask you, for our listeners that maybe are thinking in a second career, or that maybe they feel they are stuck at their workplace, is there any practical advice for them how to move forward, how don't feel that they are stuck in the place where they are?
Yeah, what I would say is and thanks for the question, is two things. Embrace the technology, whether it be ChatGPT, Claude, whatever it is. Get conversant with it. It doesn't mean to say you've got to be a blazing expert. Get conversant and comfortable with it. But don't neglect your people skills either, because the balance of the two is what's going to win the day. Someone who is dialed into the culture can treat people like human beings, has empathy, has respect, compassion, is always going to win out over someone who it may be technically sound, but doesn't possess those skills either. So don't neglect your people skills as you move forward with this, as we all move forward into a, technical unknown, which really it is. We don't know where this is going. We know it's accelerating fast, but don't let go of those people skills, particularly if you're a people manager right now. Hone those people skills, connect with your employees, have human-based conversations, get to know them, take them out for coffee, find out what makes them tick, what their aspirational goals are. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you have AI or you don't have AI if you don't have any people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Duncan, for your time, for your thoughts and expertise. I got some questions that I hope we can ask in a follow-up session. I hope it won't be the last time we're talking.
You bet, Cesar. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much. And thanks to our couple of listeners. Remember, we learn from each other. I wish you agency a wonderful day, and remember that the future was yesterday. Thanks so much, and see you next time.
Thanks for watching this episode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and check out another episode here.